Greetings, viewers. This is King Ichu from Southern Cameroon and Bazonia. Welcome to my channel. This is a Pan-African platform. Please like, subscribe, and share if you like what you're listening to. If you don't, well, you don't. Anyway, I want to talk about the rise of racism in the Asian community in the United States. It's gone to a point where Asian movie stars and celebrities have called for greater recognition of racism that targets Asian Americans. There are many articles that are even art. One of the articles was even talking about Black and Asian unity. Or stop Asian hate, stop Black hate, stop all hate. Many Americans called for unity against racism. After 8 people were killed, 6 being Asians, you know, this actually the hatred towards um, Asians have actually risen since COVID-19 started, and the fact that COVID-19 started in China and then spread around the world. So some of the whites, some of the Caucasians are angry, especially with the fact that they lost the election and Donald Trump had to leave the White House after you know inciting shit up about COVID-19 and Chinese or China flu or China whatever names that have been given by you know by the former president towards dealing with Chinese. It's gone to a point where people are angry and they're taking it out on Asian people. Random attacks happening in most of the major cities in the United States towards Asians. The Asians want they even want blacks and Asians to unite against racism. You know, they even said supporting the Asian community is not about dividing. The support is for all of us suffering under white supremacy. You know, there was white supremacy that redlined black Americans into poorer neighborhood and forced Asian immigrants into their own space. You see, every race in America has their own space, meaning, every race in America have their own space. You have the black community, you have the Asian community, you have the Muslim community, you have the white community. It's not like the melting pot because every community is segregated in some ways. So asking for um, saying that blacks will stand with the Asians against racism. mm, I'm against that, and these are my reasons why I'm against that. When you look at racism in the United States, the most people who have dealt with racism in the United States and have gotten less support from other race community in the United States is blacks. Black Americans have gone through racism for over 400 years, systemic racism for over 400 years. And but when you look at the Asian community, they haven't really been feeling so much hatred as compared to blacks, just like the Arabs or Muslims haven't feeling much hatred as compared to the black. Eh, the Latinos have felt they have felt racism, but you can't compare their level of racism to the black community. As a matter of fact, there was a point where blacks and Latinos or Spanish were fighting against racism on the same level, but when Latinos got the upper hand, they forgot about blacks. Now Asians are feeling the heat of racism in the United States. It's not. It just started. I mean, as intense in this level, it just started. There have been some racism, but it wasn't so open. It wasn't so blatant. Now it's been blatant because citizens are going around killing Asians because of the hatred that they have for Asians. But for the blacks, for the past 5, 10 years, 20 years, they have been going through systemic racism. You could go as far as 400 years, but I'm just listening that just within the 10 years, I've been going through a lot of systemic racism, police killing blacks and getting away with it. You know, as a matter of fact, it's not even the police that are killing the Asians because the police don't really kill Asians. It's the citizens, the white Caucasians who are killing the Asian community. But for blacks, since their own level of racism is so intense, it's the police, it's a system that is against black people. The police kill blacks and get away with it. Not unarmed black people, not even people who are armed, unarmed. Police will disarm a white person or will find every way to make sure that he doesn't kill the white person, but with a black person, he's running away, bam, shoot. So the intensity of how blacks go through racism compared to Asian, compared to Muslims or Arabs, compared to Latinos, compared to any other race is completely different. So for Asians to say, oh, we should unite against racism when they are just feeling the heat this year with the level or intensity of racism due to the fact that COVID-19 came from um, China. But when we had Ebola, blacks also went through racism. When we had, they talk about AIDS, they say we brought AIDS, you know, went through some racism. Systemic racism with everything that has blacks went through racism. It's a different level. So having a rainbow front against racism, which is being given by the white power structure, I mean, to me, there is no point to have a united front against racism because Asians they're feeling a little bit of racism. As a matter of fact, I would say this. It is good that the white race is diversifying racism because the most people who have felt most of the racism in the world are blacks in the United States, in Europe, even in Africa. Racism touches Africa. Systemic racism is connected all the way to Africa, where Western powers come and get what they want and get the fuck out. They don't give a damn. China is doing the same thing now, recolonizing Africa. As a matter of fact, it was somewhere in what was that? Early April 2020, where blacks or Africans in China were thrown out of their homes because of COVID-19. They were being accused as if they were the one who brought COVID-19. So what goes around comes around. The Asians are feeling the heat now, and they're trying to get support from the black community so that pressure would not be among them. But as soon as the pressure is no longer among them or within them, they won't give a damn about the black race because they'll go back seeing themselves as superior and continue to treat black people with racism, not just here in the United States, but all over around the world. There's a level of human. There's a hierarchy of humanity within all the races, And in this hierarchy, whites are the supreme race. Then you may have in uh, Asia or more Arabs in between, and then Latino, and at the bottom you have the black race. If you notice, every other race shits on the black race. Doesn't matter if it's in the United States or Europe or Africa. China is in the in Africa, recolonizing Africa because they think, and they not only think, they believe they are superior to black people. So having uh, black and Asian unity against racism will not benefit black people. It will benefit Asians, and when they have the benefit, they'll kick black people to the curb. So why should we have a united front? It's better for each race to fight against the enemy. Yeah, let Asians feel the heat of racism as much as what black people have been suffering for the amount of years from whites, from Latinos, from Asians, from Arabs. It doesn't matter. Black people have been treated poorly by all race because they look down on black people. So I'm happy that the white people are diversifying their racism towards all other races because they know they're supreme. They know they are the most powerful. They know they can do whatever and get away with it. As a matter of fact, Joe Biden has been talking a lot about the racism towards Asian people or towards Asian people, and he has not mentioned anything about black people. He hasn't said anything about the police shooting. He hasn't said anything about the systemic racism. He hasn't said anything about that. But he's talking a lot more about the Asian racism, talking much about the immigrants, but nothing about black people, nothing about black Americans, because they don't have an agenda for black Americans. Just like when the heat that the Asians are facing within the white race or white supremacy, when that comes down, the Asian community would not give a damn about black people. As a matter of fact, other examples include when blacks were being treated poorly, being treated um, with racism, when blacks buy stuff from Asian communities. They don't treat them with humanity. So if the white man or the white supremacists are killing Asians because they're angry, well, at least the Asian community will understand a little bit about what blacks have been going through in the United States and in the world. A little bit. It's a good thing that they have diversified this racism. The Arabs have felt a little bit of racism in the United States. Latinos feel it. You know, now the Asians are feeling it, feeling the heat of racism. But each community will have to fight against the system. Blacks will have to fight against the system, creating a power vacuum, a power structure that will be able to um, put an input against racism towards black people. Asians will have to fight because Blacks are not only fighting against whites when it comes to racism, they also have racism towards racism that Asian people are bringing towards black people, racism that the Arabs are doing towards black people, racism that the Latinos are also doing towards black people. So by combining all the races in order to fight the common enemy does not necessarily mean that black people would benefit from that struggle. Some blacks want to go and support, let's support the Asian brothers. Yes, let's support the Asian brothers. Yeah, we could support them. We don't necessarily have to ride with them. We could support them by telling them to stand up for their rights, just as blacks are trying or fighting to stand up for their own rights. In Africans in the continent, you see what the Asians are doing to you in the continent. The key is to fight. The key is to fight against white supremacy. The key is to fight against Asian supremacy. The key is to fight against Arab supremacy. The key is to fight and not to give in. Because our humanity as black people has been degraded. We had to fight for our humanity in order to be seen as a people. We had to. And we will have to continue to do that because the world does not respect the global black people. The world does not give a damn about the global black people. The world thinks they can step on the backs of the global black people. But it's left for us blacks to fight and create the power that we need to fight against the racism that the world gives us. So I would say Asians, fight for your humanity or your fight against racism towards whites. But it will be unwise for blacks to think that if they stand with Asia community and the Asian community will stand with them. Now, the Latino community is not standing with blacks against the racism blacks are feeling. They stopped. They didn't. When they got a better deal, they said fuck the black people. So what do you think the Asians would do when the level of racism towards the Asian is not as intense as the racism towards black people in the United States, black people in Europe, black people in Africa. Africa. We must fight against Chinese imperialism and Western imperialism because they are coming and they ain't not gonna stop. They have an agenda towards. They have an agenda for Africa and for global black people, but global black people don't have an agenda, and especially African leaders do not have an agenda for global Africa. They should, but they don't. I would say this to the Chinese or the Asians who are fighting against racism towards white supremacy. Well, it's time for you guys to fight and make it happen. But blacks should also fight against racism and should not stop fighting against racism and should not think that if you stand with the Asian community, you will get what you want because you will not. The Asians will get what they want, but not necessarily black people. That's why this is King H. I'm out.